Hi, and welcome to another Watch Geek video. Today I'll be doing an unboxing and a review of a new Seiko Prospex, which was done in collaboration with Giugiaro. And it came to me a few days ago from Japan, and it was released a few weeks ago on June 10th, exclusively in Japan and in a limited quantity of 2,000 pieces. Now, the release included two models. The one that I'm going to review here, the SBEE001, which is the blue dial and silver colored case, and the SBEE002, which is a gold dial and gold colored case. Now, usually I love a diver's watch that has a bit of gold on it, but when it comes to the 002, the gold case in combination with the golden dial was just a bit too much for me, so I went for the blue dialed version, the SBE001. And I'm glad I did, because in real life the blue really looks amazing. Now, if the golden one had a black dial, I might have had a bit of a struggle, but as it is now, the decision was pretty easy. Now we'll move on with the fake unboxing, and I say fake because I unboxed this watch like literally 5 seconds after I got it. The postman was still there because I couldn't wait to get my hands on this watch. So here goes the unboxing. The watch comes in the outer white cardboard box that says Seiko Prospex on it. When you open it, inside you're gonna have a user manual for the 7 and 36 movement. You're gonna have the Seiko worldwide guarantee and the little certificate of guarantee card inside. Now, in this box there's another box, and if you ever bought a JDM Prospex model, you'll know this box. It's the standard black and orange or black and yellow, depending on the lighting, box. And when you open it, you finally get to the watch that is sitting on a nice black pillow. So let's just remove the watch and put away the box. And here's the watch in all its glory and its funkiness. Now, before I move on to the watch and the specs and everything, I just wanted to say a few words about Giugiaro, the man behind the design of this watch, in case you haven't heard of him, which is highly unlikely. Now, he's a world-famous industrial designer that's mostly famous for his car designs, but his collaboration with Seiko has been going on for more than 30 years now. And although they did quite a lot of models, the most famous ones are the Seiko Ripley and Seiko Bishop, mainly because they were used in the Aliens movies. In the Aliens movie. When it comes to cars, he was named the car designer of the century back in 1999. And when you see some of the models that he designed, you understand why. Now, I won't include the whole list of the cars that he designed because the list is really, really long, but I'll just name a few that I find the most iconic. So among those cars, you have the VW Golf, the first generation, the Mark I. You have the Lotus Esprit. You have the DMC DeLorean, which was made famous by starring in the movies Back to the Future. You have the Lancia Delta, which became the legend of the rally world. You have the iconic BMW M1, and you have the car that's not as famous as the ones that I named, but to me one of the sexiest and best looking cars ever made, the Tommaso Mangusta. Now, there are some claims that even Lamborghini Miura, which was named the most beautiful car ever made, was actually based off his sketches that he left when he quit Bertone Design Studio, but that was never confirmed. Now, for my fellow Balkan viewers, he also designed the legendary Yugo, considered one of the worst cars in the history of world by the Westerns, but to me one of the best, as fixing it required a wrench, a hammer, and a bit of persistence, no matter how severe the breakage was. And lastly, he also designed the Tomos Colibri, which is a funky bike from the 1990s, and I remember growing up, if you had one, you were instantly cool. So he was a pretty accomplished designer. Now, going back to the watch is part of Seiko's Prospex line, which means that it's made to meet the standards of Seiko professional specifications. Now, I don't know what that stands for exactly, and although it sounds like a bit of a marketing gimmick just to make the watch sound cool, this watch is an ISO certified diver, and that is not a gimmick, and that gives it some serious street cred. When it comes to the dimensions, the watch is 44 millimeters wide from 3 to 9, and it's 43 millimeters from 10 to 4. When it comes to lug, it's a reasonable 48 millimeters, so even on a smaller wrist, it will look okay. I have a 6.7-inch wrist, and the watch really fits me nice. So anyways, here's the watch on the wrist. As you can see, the size is just right for my 6.7-inch wrist. On a bigger wrist, the watch would probably look even better because the strap would be more straight than going down like this. When it comes to the thickness, it's only 11.5 millimeters thick, so not too thick, and it weighs in at 88 grams. Meaning that it's not too heavy, but you do feel it on your wrist. The watch naturally comes with a screw-down crown, and I have to admit that the screw-in action is one of the better ones that I tried. Unlike my Seiko Orange Monster, you can screw this one without doing the back threading technique, where you twist it backwards and then forwards. So that the watch catches the threads. On this one, it always catches them perfectly. However, I still use the back threading because out of a habit, and because my fear of cross threading has been set deep inside me because of spending way too much time on watch forums. The watch also comes with a slightly domed hardlex crystal, as you can see, and the crystal adds some really nice depth to the dial, and I'm always amazed how Seiko achieves this deep look on their dials even on relatively thin watches. Now the dial itself is really a joy to look at, and I especially like that they didn't overdo things with the text. So as you can see, it only has the Seiko and the Diver's 200 in red written here. So very tastefully done and very minimalistic, and it shows that less sometimes truly is more. Now the markers are slabs of loom. There's a finely printed outline around them in white. And the loom is what you would expect from Seiko, so it's fantastic. It glows strong, and it glows for a long time. So in other words, with this watch, no matter the conditions, you'll always be able to tell the time perfectly. Now the watch comes also with a 120 click bezel, and as you can see, it has these big easy to grip teeth. The bezel also features an aluminum insert with a loomed pip set deep inside the bezel. I don't know if you can see it. And there seems to be some kind of glass over the loomed pip. Now when it comes to the bezel action, when you grip it properly and you want to move it, it moves really light. In fact, a bit too light, because of this it feels a bit flimsy, and I thought that accidental movement is going to be guaranteed. However, when I tried to move it with one finger, like trying to simulate an accidental movement, the bezel would not budge. So from a functional standpoint, the bezel is actually excellent, because it moves easily when you want it to, and it doesn't move at all when you don't. However, this ease of movement makes the bezel feel a bit cheap, and I personally would prefer if they made a tighter bezel, even though it would probably ruin the functionality and it would be harder to use it every day. Also, the bezel, as you can see, has these little teeth on the inside, these prongs, and they give the impression like they're holding the crystal down so that it doesn't pop out, but actually they don't. They're just a gimmick, but they do look cool. Now the watch comes on a 22 millimeter strap, and since it's the new generation of Seiko straps, it's really soft and very pliable, so it's miles ahead of the old plasticky Z22s. I also like that the strap is not overly long, so even on my 6.7-inch wrist, the strap doesn't go past the keeper, unlike the old Seiko Divers, where on my wrist I would always have a huge chunk of strap sticking away from the keeper. But on this, that's not the case. I also like that they included this U-shaped pattern all over the strap, and it's there to mimic the U-shaped protection of the case. And this is also repeated on the keeper, to keep in the same spirit. Now the strap ends with this bead blasted buckle, and it's quite large because the strap has no taper whatsoever, so it's 22 from beginning to the end. Also, these vents are pretty deep. They're square in shape. Now, what I like about them is that because of the softness of the strap, these are the first vents that I actually feel contracting and stretching on my wrist. Like on my Orange Monster, I never could move the vents because the strap was way too stiff. But on this, it actually works. Although the strap is 22 and the lugs are standard in shape and even drilled, as you can see on one side, to make the strap changes easy, Please note that finding a replacement strap for this or using an aftermarket strap is going to be a bit of a challenge because you want to use the 22 to follow the shape of the case, but the lug width is only 17 millimeters. So in order for you to accommodate a 22 millimeter strap, you're going to have to do quite a lot of notching. Or if you use a 17 millimeter strap on this, on a case of this size, it's going to look odd to say the least. Now when it comes to the look of the case is bead blasted all over. And it makes it look more toolish than any other Seiko diver I ever put on my case. Now again, I'll compare it to an Orange Monster because that's a watch I've been wearing for about 4 years. And although the Monster has a toolishly shaped case, because of all the polished parts on the bezel and on the case, it was very blingy and very shiny. Well, this watch is the exact opposite of that because there's not a single surface on this watch that reflects light. It almost looks like it absorbs light. Also, this case is more dark gray than silver, so it appears like it's made of titanium. Now, that kind of bead blasted look, together with the big teeth on the bezel, make the watch look, and together with these protection pieces, make the watch look like more like a piece of equipment than a wristwatch. And I actually like it because it looks pretty cool. Now, the only polished part of this watch is the case back. And as you can see, it has the famous Seiko Tsunami logo written and some other things like as you can see, the depth rating. It has the number. Like I said, each one of these is individually numbered. So this watch is the 1347 out of 2000. You have the Giugiaro design logo here. The movement was made in Japan and cased in China. And you have two more things. Now these are the time codes for the change of the battery, but I'll explain that when we get to that. And over here you have the type of the battery used, and this is actually a cool feature because when the battery gets low, you can order the battery without opening the case because it's written right here what kind of battery to order. So I love that they included this. Now when it comes to the main features of this watch, or the most prominent features, there are actually two. The first one is these protective pieces on both sides of the case, and as you can see, they're independently held with these screws on both ends, and they're held just the way a shroud is held on a Seiko Tuna or a bezel on a Casio G-Shock. Now these are made of plastic rather than rubber, and it appears to me like to be a high quality plastic to the touch, and I think it's the same material they used on the Solar Tunas that I reviewed last year. Also, as you can see, it has these circular prongs on it, and this reminds me of those anti-slip surfaces that you find on industrial equipment. All in all, it really looks cool. Now the shape of the bigger one, as you can see, has these corners sticking out, and I guess they went for the look of Japanese rooftops or something. But to me, in combination with these screws, it actually looks like a really sad robot. But that's just me. It makes it look funny. Now because of this, when you put the watch on your wrist, and I'll do it in just a second. Now, as you can see, when you put the watch on the wrist, under certain angles, the watch looks like it has little horns, and that makes it look really cool. Now the second most prominent feature of this watch, besides this, is this offset case, and the offset is actually about a bit of a signature of Giugiaro design for Seikos, because all of his Seiko models are either offset or have a little tilt to them. But on this model, this offset not only makes the watch look cool and unique, but it also helps the comfort because it moves the watch away from your wrist, as you can see, so that the watch doesn't impede your wrist movement. Unlike, let's say, a Seiko Bishop that I mentioned earlier, where the watch is actually tilted towards your face, toward your wrist, and it impedes your movement, so it looks like this. And although people claim that it's very comfortable to wear, I cannot imagine how that can be, unless you wear it really high up your wrist so it doesn't get in the way. But with this watch, you can wear it high or low, you can wear it tight or loose, it's always going to be comfortable. Another thing that helps the comfort is the crown at 7 o'clock, because it's not like on a usual place on 3 or 4. To a regular person, this probably crown heavy being on 3 or 4 o'clock would probably not be a problem. But since I've been wearing my SNK for years, the SNK 805. It has a small tucked away crown, so my wrist kind of got used to that, and when I wear a regular watch that has a crown at 3 or 4 o'clock, it digs into my wrist, and by the end of the day I have bruises, like real bruises on my wrist. So I appreciate this kind of design, and this crown moved away. Because of this offset case and these protective pieces on the side, this watch has already been called the Seiko Frogman, because it resembles the more famous Casio G-Shock Frogman. And I actually like the name, and I like the association, because it really does remind, it really looks like an analog version of the Casio Frogman. However, before G-Shock fans start yelling how Seiko stole the design from Casio, you have to understand that this is not a new model. This is actually a reissue of a 1980s diver's watch that looked exactly the same. And so not only did the Frogman not exist back then, but the G-Shock line was still in the making when this hit the market. So it was and still is an original design. Now, since I mentioned the 1980s model, I should say a few words about it. So like I said, it looked exactly the same as this, except for the inscriptions on the dial. And the vintage one had the professional 200 meters written, whereas the reissue has the diver's 200 written on it. The other difference is that the original used the 7C43 movement, which is a high torque quartz movement, and basically a smaller version of the famous 7C46 that's still in use today on tunas. And that movement is respected even by more traditional watch lovers, despite being a quartz. Now, the reissue, unfortunately, doesn't come with the historical 7C43, nor does it come with the 7C46. What it does come with is an 7N36, which is a regular Seiko quartz movement. However, it is a very good one. Why? Well, it's been in use for more than 20 years now, and mostly in divers, and it's proven to be very reliable and very robust. The oldest that I've read, someone using it, was about 17 years, and it never missed a beat. And it went through only 3 battery changes, if I remember correctly. Now, the movement is rated to plus minus 15 seconds, and the battery is rated to 4 years. So it can last 4 years on one battery. But the most impressive part of this movement is the precision of the seconds hand, because if you can look closely, the seconds hand always hits the markers perfectly. Now, I love that on a quartz movement, as much as I hate when you pay for a more expensive quartz movement and you get the seconds hand that hits all over the place, missing the markers. However, this movement, as you can see, really hits the markers perfectly every single time. And it really impresses me every time when I look at it. Now, when it comes to the functions, the movement has the time, the dates, and day of the week. Now, it also features a quick set function, which means that when you pull the crown to the first click, moving it in one direction is going to change the date, and moving it in the other is going to change the day of the week. And this being a JDM model, as you can see, it features English and Japanese symbols. And now I moved it on a Saturday on purpose, because the Saturday and Sunday just look great on this watch, because the Saturday is matched to the dial color and the Sunday is matched to the diver's 200 inscription. So really the best days to have this watch on. Now, pulling the crown to the second click is going to stop the seconds hand, so you can set up the time. When you've set up the time, you just close the crown and the watch will start ticking again. Now, this being a battery operated watch, for it to qualify as an ISO certified diver that it is, it needs to have an EOL function, or end of life function. What that means is that it needs to warn you when the battery is getting low, so that, let's say, a diver doesn't experience a dead watch in the middle of a dive. And this watch does it by moving the seconds hand in 2-second increments when the battery gets low. So that means that the seconds hand is gonna count every other second. Now, on top of that, the watch features the thing that I mentioned a couple of minutes ago, which are these time codes on the back. And this is something that you can also find on Seiko tunas. So as you can see, the watch has marked quarters of the years and years. And the way it works is, when it comes from the factory, they put on the first dot of when to expect the first battery change. And as you can see, it's in the second quarter of 2021, of the year 2021. So now, whenever the battery dies, and it's going to be probably around here somewhere, when you take it to a watchmaker or a service center, when they change the battery, they should put the next dot 4 years from then. So if it was 2021, they're going to put it at 2025. Also on the second quarter, or if the battery lasts longer, they just have to put it 4 years from when the battery was changed. And this is an additional way of knowing approximately when to expect a battery change. So when this time comes, you just wait for the EOL to kick in and then change the battery. Now, to conclude, I have to say that the reissue of another Seiko model from their historical vaults looks and feels excellent. I especially like that they kept the look as close to the original as possible and that they kept the size reasonable. When it comes to the things that I would change, the only thing that I would change is the bezel action. Now, I understand that it's very functional this way. Like I said, there's no accidental movement and it's very easy to move like this. However, I would prefer a tighter bezel because this does kind of feel cheap, although I know it's not. When it comes to the movement, it would have been a great bonus for them to include the historical movement, the 7C43, but I really cannot fault this movement in, especially considering the precision of the seconds hand and the reliability that it offers. And one more thing that I wanted to mention is that when I got this watch, I was at work and I put it on and wore it about 2 hours or 3 hours and then on my way home. So all in all, about 4 hours of wear. In those 4 hours, I got more compliments on this watch than on some of my watches during their whole lifetime. So and this was from normal people, like not watch people. Even my wife said that the watch looks beautiful. Now, this is a complete opposite of what I expected from this watch, because when you wear a watch like this that's so unique and so weird, you expect normal people to pretty much hate it, and even watch people to be divided between those that love it and those that hate it. But with this watch, somehow regular people, at least the ones that I bumped into in those 4 hours, everyone liked it. Now, I hope you liked the video and found it helpful. If you did, please like and subscribe. Also, thank you for watching, and until the next video, bye.